Hey guys, it's been a really long time since I've done a life update, and so right now is a time of a lot of change. It's been a huge amount of changes in the last apparently 4 years since I've made one of these videos. So this is sort of to get it out. The purpose is to be able to have a journal to look back on, and also because I'm very ambitious to have kind of a video log of like what I'm like. And then also from a personality psychology point of view, people who want to study type have an example of a person to kind of match theory to reality a little bit better. So 4 years ago, I was in San Francisco in a room in a house I put together, just talking through my room, what life is like, stuff like that. I was about to go to Ukraine. And since then, I actually lived in Ukraine for almost 3 years. I have since returned with pit stops in Mongolia and Bali. I've been working on my startup GameTree that has gone from basically just barely an idea to actually becoming a real startup company now that has thousands of people using it daily. And we just got an acquisition offer from the world's biggest gaming news network. I was engaged in Ukraine, fell in love hard, have since had like a shorter relationship and am falling in love again with someone who I think might be the one, but that's always the case when you meet someone new, I think. And befriended the ex-presidential family in Ukraine, became very close with their family. Just a lot of adventures between there and here. And now I'm back living in my mom's basement. This is mom's house. It's raining here in San Diego, back where I started from after mostly 12 years. So I'm living in her basement here. My family, parents split up when I was 18, and the divorce lasted about 12 years with all the court and arguing, and they finally just settled it, selling my family home. And so finally there was some extra money that my mom was able to invest some into GameTree, so I could get away with not constantly trying to fundraise while living in an almost third world or developing country. I've been able to actually focus on GameTree for a bit. I have a list of things that I'll just be talking about. One is polyamory. That's sort of a deviant lifestyle, and being somebody who practices this, I think that's something that I have an obligation or duty to share as somebody who can kind of do that and is pretty sold on it. Essentially, it's just started from an idea that love doesn't have to be finite, that everything's connected. It's kind of like a demon state thing for me where I'm very strong on personal logic, so that feeling of emotional connection with others kind of comes at a cost with that. And polyamory is from a belief that I think that love doesn't have to be finite necessarily, and that monogamy came from agriculture, private property, lack of birth control, wanting to do inheritance, and that we're kind of living in an age where that doesn't make sense as much. So I think there's more blending now. And so I'm very philosophically sold on it, but it's also been a challenge because most people are not polyamorous. And even people who could be are often programmed by society to not be that way, or it's the prevailing wisdom, so it's making a very slow comeback. My last relationship while I was living in Ukraine is someone who I actually met on my third day there, and I decided to skip my return flight. We met on couch surfing. A lot of, I'd say, the biggest reason for splitting is because of the polyamory issue, where she was expecting me to be monogamous. I was expecting her to be more open-minded with polyamory, and I don't want to be with someone that I'm hurting. Usually in polyamory, you have a primary partnership that's kind of a main life partner, sort of like marriage, and then other partners might fill certain needs or come and go over time for development or to fill for a variety or different sorts of reasons based on individual, not trying to force one person to be all things for every person. And it doesn't mean that a polyamorous person necessarily has to have multiple partners or even wants them, but to me it's more of a philosophical belief. So I moved to Ukraine over 3 years ago, and it went by fast. Met someone, fell in love. I went viral in the news there for Silicon Valley entrepreneur comes to Ukraine, finds buried treasure. That was unexpected, got like 100 Facebook friend requests overnight. Fell in love with the country, the people. They're very well-rounded, they're deep, they're humble, they are authentic. I just really like it there. I like that things are more interesting. The West is becoming this kind of amorphous blob. In Ukraine, there's a lot more like unexpected things, a lot more like genuine deep art. People, when you have low resources, can be more resourceful. People don't just pretend like they're always happy or fake smile at you, ask you how you're doing if they don't care, say they want to see you if they don't. So I appreciated the sort of depth and authenticity there. I helped organize a festival called Connect Ukraine to sort of help the people of Ukraine. And that's another thing I liked about living there, is that it's easier to help people. And I became friends with the presidential family, the Yushchenkos, who I admire a lot. And we organized this festival to basically help bring things up from Ukraine and present them to the world. Ukraine, by the way, the reason for that was to bootstrap GameTree, because GameTree is a hard company to start. It's about helping gamers find friends, discover games, It needs lots of data, lots of people, machine learning. And in San Francisco, where I was living before, it's so expensive to do these things that I moved to Ukraine. And essentially it went from living in basically one of America's most gnarly ghettos, where I saw multiple people get stabbed, or shot and killed on my street, somebody saw me get stabbed, somebody tried to mug me. Moving from that to being in the Kiev city center, living in like a nice apartment where it's very civilized for like even less money. It's just such a night and day difference. And moving to Ukraine is really what allowed me to take GameTree from an idea to bootstrap it to where it is now, where it's number one on Google for find gamer friends, find gamers, find people to play with, and we're actually connecting. Like we're getting a few hundred people signing up every day now, and we're getting good reviews. People are actually finding real friends, and we're creating so much value. So that's starting to feel good, and I'm starting to realize it's actually becoming a community. So moving to Ukraine, things just kind of took off like magic. I guess I'm the only kind of Bay Area entrepreneur who had ever moved there specifically to start a company, not just to do outsourcing, but to actually build the product, to like get down there dirty with the people, like hands-on. And that sort of worked out. It stood out a lot because it's contradictory knowledge, because usually San Francisco is the startup heaven that people go towards. So Ukraine was really, really good to me. And I like also that it's really easy to help people there. People could use the advice more, the connections, even being able to just buy things from like babushkas or little grannies on the street feels really good, or to give them like a flower sometimes. Whereas here, especially in Del Mar, where I'm right now, it's like an ultimate bubble of the world where everything's very quaint and perfect and everybody's wealthy, and like it's very hard to like have an impact or to matter really. Everybody here just kind of is just another consumer in a way. And even just the mentality is sort of a much more bubbly effect. Even though people are friendly, life is good here, it's not the same. I feel like it's almost like not the real world. So I try to constantly keep in mind Ukraine, or the fact that there's so much unseen suffering in the world going on that enables this sort of a lifestyle. So yeah, then again, I'm here in Mom's basement again. 3 maxed out credit cards, about $35,000 in credit card debt. But it doesn't really matter. I'm actually like healthy. The kinds of women I've been seeing are like really high caliber, like beyond anything in my life. I'm able to like sleep pretty comfortably for the most part, indulge in activities. Something I do wish is I had more like male friends around, because of moving around so much. Now being out of Ukraine, like I miss being able to just have friends over for like a board game, or to have a group of people that I go do something with. Whereas here, it's harder for me to want to go out and reach out to people, because I know that I'm not planning to be here forever. My plan was to go to Los Angeles just to stop here, but I realized that Los Angeles is expensive. It's adapting to a new territory. It would take a lot of resources to even adjust to a new environment like that, even though I love it and I've met really cool friends there. At the same time, though, if this enthusiast gaming partnership goes through, then I'm going to be back to Ukraine, because they're basically going to bankroll the company until maturity. They are going to buy services from us. So I don't have to do business development here, and they're going to also buy services, market for us. Like there's basically not as much reason for me to be in LA anymore. So it's better for me to spend a lot of time in Ukraine with the team. Alongside that, there's a girl who I've been following for lately, and she lives in the Netherlands. I just randomly added her on Facebook like a year ago in a personality group of a type that's supposed to be kind of my dual for my personality type. And it's also nice because that could be closer to her, so that works out really well. Yeah, so essentially, I'm probably going to be splitting time between Los Angeles and Ukraine now, instead of mostly LA or getting kind of stuck in San Diego. Objective personality. That's a personality system, OP or OP. It's about Myers-Briggs 16 personality type stuff. How do we perceive and judge information? I've been getting really into this. I didn't even know about it the last time I made a video, but there was a guy, Dave Superpowers, who was my favorite YouTuber. He just disappeared for like 7 or 8 years, and then he reappeared with all these really fucking cool understandings. He's really funny, really down to earth, really well-meaning, entertaining, and he's just got so much cool personality information. So I've dived into this a lot, and it goes from basically 16 personality types like Myers-Briggs to 512, double that if you count men and women is different. And it's just so cool, because the way that you analyze the system is 2 people independently have to come to the same result, and he and his partner are getting about 90% accuracy, guessing independently among 512 options. So I've spent thousands of hours studying personality psychology in general for the last couple of years, very honed in on this. And I'm just finding it so useful, so true. You see patterns in people's like skin tones and head shapes and mouths, in addition to all of their behaviors. And there's just so many layers, and they're kind of just throwing shit at the wall and see what fits. But the way they do it is just amazing, and I'm getting great benefit out of this. And one, for example, is just even with my last relationship, I met a girl who we do get along well. We're a strong match, but not like that strong. And to know that according, because a lot of it was part of, I realized I'd mistyped her a little bit using wishful thinking, where there's different kinds of masculine and feminine energies. I noticed we were budding a lot, and after a while somebody suggested something, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, I totally did mistype that, and they fit every single piece of the pattern of why we were conflicting in one of the most important places. So so like that kind of gave me the courage to know, like, yeah, even while we're strong, like we could probably be with better people, and we were arguing a lot about stupid things. So now she just met somebody who she's fallen in love with really fast, even though like earlier that day she'd been wanting to still marry me or something, and now she's kind of run off with him, is a lot more monogamous. I wish she was still in my life being polyamorous, but she's not that way. And that's also part of the dual relationship, is the person I've met is a bit more open-minded to it, even though it's not their propensity, because they see things a lot more abstractly and are able to like kind of understand how it works and believe that more without necessarily it being as big of an influence if it's something that they've been exposed to a lot in the past or how they grew up with it. The objective personality system, I was trying to understand my own type, because that's the lens that you see the world through, and then you can see where your tidal waves, where are you constantly getting poked, what tools in your brain are you overusing as sort of like a backup because they're really strong, and misapplying, because in this, maturity is about being well-rounded, using the right tools at the right times, not just treating every problem like it's a nail with a hammer when you really might be wanting to be use different kinds of tools like a screwdriver or something. So this just more objectively helps me be able to see the matrix and see through stuff, and having a bigger vision of creating sort of a world utopia governed by AI and philosophers and therapists and psychologists and engineers, being able to know the code of how people are unique and how they're different and the kinds of things that they enjoy and who they get along with and what they like. All of that just ties into like AI and data, and having more understanding of human nature and where like the subjective stuff meets subjective stuff in our DNA and expression in the real world is just really helpful. So trying to understand my own type, I was really fucking far off. It was like so humbling. Like, and part of it too is that there's some mechanisms in my psychology that are actually worse at seeing themselves. It's called sleep energy. It's when you look to yourself for information and answers at the same time. It's about preserving energy. It's about being lazy. A lot of these people tend to be paranoid about different kinds of things, like they're getting sick. They're very energy conscious. I thought I was that, and it's actually the thing that I'm missing the most. And often that's associated with ADHD, because you want stimulus, you don't stop and pause very much, you don't process a whole lot, you're constantly doing things. So that was big news, and it turned out that the type I thought I was actually like almost as wrong as possible. And this is really humbling, especially given that I do YouTubing. I led a few workshops in Bali when I was there for a couple months. I'm constantly typing people, and I can type other people pretty accurately. It's just looking at myself, and they see that as a huge pattern where most people have themselves upside down. I had myself like extra upside down because of missing the sleep energy and probably being more, and also people more knowledgeable tend to be more biased of the old system of Myers-Briggs and such. So that was really humbling, where my type is not ENTJ like I've advertised in the videos before, but in this system I'm an ISTP. So essentially that's personal logic first, introverted thinking, going really deep. It's associated a lot with like IQ, logic, things like that. Like those were kind of effortless for me. Like I took a course in college where I never got like a wrong answer like the entire time, and could just like solve problems as fast as I can write. But then when it came to like literature and stuff like that, or like understanding like kind of group dynamics and like the context of a lot of things, like that stuff's a lot harder for me. And also realizing that introverted thinking has to do with identity, your worldview, and it's hard to be movable, to get along with other people. And I see that that's kind of been a pattern where the extroverted feeling is the weakness, the dual of that, and being able to maybe have too high of standards of people that I hang out with, or not being willing to like adjust what I think is right to be able to get along with other people, or being aware of like the vibe of stuff. So that's something I'm working on a lot, and it's really helpful just having that sort of awareness, and with the biases of like, oh, like GameTree is well engineered, but does it have the right vibe? Do people like it? Even though it's like efficient, stuff like that. Even in relationships, being able to see like, what are the mechanisms? Oh, you know what, maybe I'm right, but I'm not actually right, because like I need to learn when to just let things go. And so this objective personality system, if you go to objectivepersonality.com, you can learn about it. And you can also YouTube objective personality, but I love this and highly recommend it because it's just like personal growth on steroids. They analyze famous people, watch hours of footage, independently trying to guess what the person is when one of them's already analyzed them, and see the discovery process, while also distilling a lot of like the world's most successful people's ideas, whether they're authors or politicians or whatnot, the kinds of things that made them successful that are good exemplars for people like ourselves to look up to and to understand, why are they that way? What have they learned, and how can we learn from that with a lot of context? It's like super meta. So highly, highly recommend that. Objective personality is the shit. I've been really good at meditating now, knowing that I have missing sleep energy. I've done it almost every day for the last month, and I've never had this good of a track record before. And that's really important for people missing sleep because it creates the calmness, the stillness, the thinking before acting. So meditating has been really helpful. I've been so much more productive because of that. And I thank Objective Personality for giving me like extra reassurance that that's like the best use of my time is literally doing nothing. That's the thing that I'm ignoring the most, is that stillness. Yeah, so Objective Personality is really cool. Next up, GameTree. Started an app for helping gamers find friends. It's doing well. Working on a big partnership with the world's biggest gaming news company. They wanted to acquire it. My vision is more changing the world than having an exit or having some equity in a bigger company. So renegotiated it, basically just to press the CEO a lot into doing a business deal as a partnership, which they almost never do. I like their CEO a lot. He's also very into personality psychology, so I'm a big fan of that. And essentially, they're going to bankroll us. They're going to spread us to millions of gamers. They have 200 million gamers at least per month that they're reaching. And also, they're going to be buying data from us to enrich their advertising to make it super highly targeted, and we can be serving their network's ads on GameTree itself. So overall, it's just really awesome because they can send us users through the news. We have tons of things that we're discovering by collecting more data on gamers than anybody. It's all about curation to me. It's about data. It's about personal values, being what games people play, the personality psychology, what the definition of fun is, putting all this together to help people find new best friends in an age where I think loneliness is one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest. It's hard to care about the environment when you're lonely. It's hard to not stockpile and hoard physical goods when you have nobody else that you can rely on. It's hard to not be depressed, to shoot up a school, to be suicidal. If you're lonely, you don't have people to talk to, and there's been an epidemic where it's been skyrocketing. And so in a way, that my own lack of extroverted feeling, that being my personality psychology's demon function, that's about kind of tribe, getting along with people. And in a way, I kind of projected my own subconscious things in building this company where the tagline is even find your tribe. On the other hand, it's also about curation, about being able to consume the best stuff, being able to get personalized ratings, reviews sorted by how similar people are to you. When it comes to games, this is just a starting point for GameTree, a later bigger company that would expand across all the industries. And that's also kind of like a savior thing of mine of consume energy, where it's taking outside information in for the self. That's a default energy for me, is to hyper learn and wanting to have more efficient systems do that. So it's sort of a weird blending of my biggest weaknesses through my biggest strengths of creating a company like this. In a way, I'm just a byproduct of the world, the universe trying to fill a hole. And of course, I'm the one who's going to get sucked into that the most. So I'm just kind of doing this thing as a way to, in my own way, try to help the world while solving personal problems. So GameTree is going well. We have an iOS, Android, and web app. If you go to GameTree.me, you can see it there. And I'm really proud of it in general. It's a public benefit corporation, so it doesn't have to become an evil company. I think that's one of the worst things about the world right now, is that corporations have to maximize profit or else they're breaking the law. They're breaking their fiduciary duty to their stockholders, their stakeholders, to maximize profit. And that just creates a lot of evil stuff. And people kind of like the Holocaust have to go along with it because that's how the rules work. They're just doing their job. If they didn't do it, somebody else would. And all these fucked up things are happening. Corporations are like viruses. They're not really paying taxes and making bad decisions. So being able to make a public benefit corporation, we can actually not have to do evil. We can pursue mission alongside that, look out for our community. So GameTree merging with this company is really nice because we basically become very high likelihood chance of becoming the Facebook for gamers, but not having to be like Facebook where we purposely have bad connection. Like Facebook, people who use Facebook more statistically are actually more lonely the more they use Facebook, which is really fucked up given that their statement is connecting the world. That's horrible. They're causing more damage than good in a lot of ways. I'd rather not start a company than start a company like that. And so GameTree is, I think, a really good vessel because we're actually creating these relationships. We've actually created a very successful friend-finding app in a world where I haven't ever actually seen one before, knowing that play is how we build relationships, even animals do it. So really glad to be on this journey and to be working with this company with such a good CEO too, who really understands the value of community and is really human. And then to also get a lot of more assurance that GameTree is going to become this company and have the resources and acceleration towards that. And that also from there, we can actually expand into GameTree without having the debt. This isn't 100% in the bag yet. Looking back, I really hope that this goes through and I don't punch myself in the face for jumping ahead of myself too often like I do. But it's looking really positive and we both really want the deal to happen. Lately, I'm feeling really settled in my skin. I've never felt more kind of just confident, at peace, just well-rounded. I don't really get embarrassed. I don't project my subconscious shit and trauma on other people very much. I was kind of watching again, this thing called, it's a book that keeps popping up called The Way of the Superior Man. And it's kind of about leading a life of purpose, putting purpose first, being, just kind of like a good person with that stuff. And I'm finding that it's all just stuff I'm already doing anyways. And I'm even finding correlations between some of the stuff and objective personality too, which is kind of funny. So I'm sort of just coming to terms that I've kind of become an adult, maybe at a young age, where I don't chase like subconscious needs or toxic things as much as I used to. I still do, of course, and it's a constant work in progress. I'm not like totally alpha or fully developed yet. Alpha meaning being able to use the right tools at the right times in the objective personality systems terms. But I'm just really happy that I'm kind of well suited in my body and my purpose and stuff like that. In a way, I feel like that's also a good time now for meeting this girl. I have a strong feeling that she could be the one. She's also a bit younger than me, which is odd because my last 3 girlfriends have been 2 to 16 years older than me. Usually I like older people because on average they're more mature, they have their shit together, they're smarter, they're better at life, they have more stuff. Like they're just older people on average are just better. But this one just seems really special, and we just really are complementary and opposite in a lot of ways that are good. And we also have a lot of similarity in ways that are just like really like sentimental, touching, fun, playful. So really looking forward to actually meeting this girl in real life. And a big coincidental advantage of going to Ukraine is being able to be closer to her. So that's like a really good side benefit. A couple last little things. Actually, this might be the last one. I just wanted to show off Infinity. It's a miniature war game. Growing up, I used to paint models like Warhammer and stuff and play, and that was one of my favorite things growing up. But since I've been poor a lot and moving around, it's been hard to get into. But I started playing this miniature war games. There's like little people that I paint and build. This guy's a motorcycle, and he like turns into a robot and a warrior. And this game is like really fun. It's a good way to get out of my head, given that I'm constantly learning or productive, to have something more in the physical world to do. And also the game's really advanced, and I love tactics and strategy. It's like one of my favorite things ever. So it's really nice being able to indulge back into like a hobby like that. I was at a tournament last weekend, and that was really fun. I was doing super well, but also getting anxiety about last girlfriend relationship ending, and just feeling like I wasn't being treated very well at the end with the lack of communication and being flaked on, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do in being polyamorous. Now she's not, but that was just a very abrupt, sudden change. So I just don't like kind of the like not knowingness things or people I care about not treating me well. But otherwise, this game is pretty fun. I want to share that with you because I think that part of GameTree is going to be getting people not just playing video games together and getting the most out of that, but then getting them more transitioned into real life as well, playing things like this or casual games, board games, things like that, an excuse for people to get together in real life, real face-to-face, and have excuses to hang out, especially excuses not involving having to like do drugs or drink or something. So I see this as like a good thing to bring people together. Gaming is also an industry that goes up during a recession, and we're well overdue for one. I guess because the coronavirus is a thing right now, maybe I should touch on that. I'm not really worried about it. It's like a 0.2% death rate or something for people in my demographic. And maybe that's probably what the flu is like. So I think people are just overreacting. It sucks if people are old, but the flu also kills old people. So it's kind of funny just seeing how crazy everybody is. It just gives me more reassurance that people on average are crazy and dumb. This is one of the things from objective personality. But collectively, we can be smarter. Nobody knows how to build a bridge, but everybody knows a piece of the bridge and how to put it together. So working together, it kind of checks all of our craziness, and truth is in the middle somewhere. Knowing where you are on the crazy wheel allows you to count for your own insanity, know what kind of other people to like take seriously, to like navigate and triangulate truth, because we specialize in different sorts of specialties of interest, activities that we get really good at. We have strong specialization in a tribe, and it's better economically, but it also creates an effect where a large majority of us are just kind of crazy, and seeing like epidemics or how our politics are working right now with this Democratic primary. It's all just kind of crazy. So I'm looking forward to a day where, a lot more engineers and psychologists and stuff can be running things and just accounting for like maximizing well-being and living in a world of abundance, doing Star Trek stuff rather than just kind of having all these petty unnecessary jobs and work and suffering and insecurity and peddling all these goods that are purposely meant to break or have conflicts of interest like medicine and insurance. So that's the kind of thing that really motivates me, is just solving these problems so that I don't have to feel guilty about having a lot of privilege, and to be able to kind of enjoy more things like LARPing, live action role playing, do things on the more kind of the fun parts of the work rather than just the other parts. But at the same time, I'm finding more and more that it's ironic battle, because an interesting theory of God that I heard from my ex Anna, who I was engaged to in Ukraine, is that if I was God, I would just solve the world's problems, and then I would get bored, and then I'd want games or something to entertain myself, to basically have something to do, because I like problem solving. And so I'd create an imperfect world or some sort of simulation where things aren't perfect, so that I would have something to do. And that's a perfect explanation for how the world is. Who knows, like, but it probably is a simulation of some sort. But it really hit me where I was like, like, I guess there is kind of a perfection in the chaos, or there's at least a reason for it. So if we ever had this utopia, maybe that'll be boring. It's always a moving target, but that's something that I at least find value and meaning in striving towards. And even without it, I used to think that'd be happier, but at this point, I'm kind of getting more and more resigned to just enjoying the journey. See you next time.